Bill is a brilliant business strategist and also a master coach himself. I've actually witnessed him in action, teaching on stage, teaching in programs, coaching people directly. There is no topic that Bill is afraid of. And I think that's a confidence that we all want in our coaching, is both to be able to be with no matter what's in front of us, to be able to bring that presence and to be able to bring intuition. What I've seen in Bill is a level of spontaneity where he doesn't have an agenda. He doesn't know what the next question is going to be. I've seen him dangle off the cliff of going like, don't know what's about to happen here, but I'm in complete trust that whatever it is in the highest good, and transformation is going to occur as exactly as it's meant to. And I think that's a confidence that we all crave as coaches. So on that note, today's topic is the end of playing small. And I'm really excited to dive in with you, Bill.
Yeah, me too. There's something's like bubbling up as you were sort of describing things. And I was like, that's what coaching is. Like, you're able to like watch me discern what I'm doing and get like the real gist of what I'm doing at a level that most people don't. And I think that's what makes you an incredible human being and an incredible coach as well. And so thank you.
You're welcome. And I would love to hear from where people are tuning in from. So just go ahead and say hi on the chat. And I'm curious, as your questions come up, about what it takes to become a masterful coach, what it takes to stop playing small. And of course, I've got a whole bunch of questions for Bill, so we are going to dive in. But as we're going along, if something flares up for you, go ahead and note it on the chat so that we can see you and incorporate that into what we're talking about, because this is going to be some real talk. So what I'd love to start with, Bill, is what led you to become a coach, and like, how has it impacted your life? Is this just a little side project you do?
Yes, it's a little side project. That it's so I started out before coaching in the music business, and it's really interesting. I thought about it. Are there any people yet that coaching is their first career? Like, I wonder if coaching is your first career. Can you just type it in the chat box? Because I'd really love to know, because most people that I know, coaching is not their first career. And for me, it was music. And I love music. I felt so passionate about it. And it was my first love. And the thing that I realized was that by the end of that was that what I really loved was mentoring artists. What I really loved was really understanding who somebody is and be able to help them craft the best music that is the fullest representation of who they are. Like, can their soul, like the true representation of their soul, come out in the artistry of what they were producing? And that's what I loved. And it felt like I wasn't getting enough of doing that, because there's only so many artists that could be on my label and all that. And also the industry is shady is an understatement. It is just like, it's like a wicked, like the environment of that whole industry is wicked. And so when I started initially dabbling into coaching, the thing that I loved the most was the people I was being surrounded with. I was like, anytime I can be in a room with other coaches, I felt like, oh my God, like, these are my people. And by the end of being in the music business, when I was in the room of like artists or music industry people, I felt like the toxicity of the whole thing. I was like, these are not my people. So you are my people. And it's been that way for a long time now. I've been in it I started in 2002.
Wow.
So it's been 16 going on 17 years, and it's just as strong, the passion for it. Yeah.
Wow. So you started in a completely different industry and ended up being able to incorporate those skill sets and competencies into this as a career.
Right.
I think a lot of people come from corporate or another career and they have this block around reinventing themselves and claiming and owning, like, well, now I'm a coach, and what does that mean about what I've done up until this point? So it sounds like you harnessed all of those gifts.
Every single person, there's gifts, there's experiences, and it's a matter of creating a different story around us. So I'll give you an example. I DJ'd for 15 years. And I played in front of 5,000 people and, played in some of the biggest clubs in the Bay Area and in lots of other places in the world. And what I realized that what I was doing is that I was shifting energy on the dance floor with my choices. And I was creating movement for people. And it's in fact what I do now. Like, I shift energy and I create movement in people. And it's like, I don't see any difference.
Wow. So you're sort of like a DJ of alignment.
Yes.
Exactly. Inner and outer alignment.
Exactly.
Well, this brings me to today's topic about the end of playing small. So when I think of the end of playing small, what comes to mind first is a stop defending and stop pretending. Do you find in your approach to that inner outer alignment that you're bringing people into and harnessing like their full self-expression like you were with these musical artists? I guess that's what came to my mind first in terms of the end of playing small and being able to play full out, mission driven, bring all of you to it. Like, yep. Is that the starting place of getting honest, getting real with where you're pretending?
Yeah, it's getting honest and real where you're pretending. And the other side of it is being unfucking apologetic about what you want. Like we want something, and like we're constantly creating excuses why we can't have it. Like, when we can be just unapologetic of what we want, of how my experience ought to be, because every moment is a possibility of reinvention, right? Mm. Like, and and every week is that way. And I'm right now, especially over the last couple of months, and even especially over the last month, I feel so freaking on fire. It's ridiculous. And one of the reasons that is that I've stopped doing things in a way that doesn't work for me. Like, and every day is an experiment. Like, I'll give you a kind of a crazy example. So we needed to create a whole lot of marketing over the last week. And I was like, how am I going to do this in a way that's a whole lot of fun? And so got together with somebody and we were like, okay, 15-minute project. What can we do in 15 minutes to create something amazing? And then give it to the other person. And we were exchanging it. And in 3 hours, we created more than what I normally create in a week. Because we were like, all right, what will be us unleashed? Different processes, different ways of doing things. And afterwards, we were like, this was more fun writing copy than we've ever had in our entire life, right? And every day is a possibility for us to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So what we want, unapologetic, how we get there, unapologetic, and our preferences, unapologetic.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, that raises a kind of provocative question that I want to pose to our listeners right now of what is something, if you weren't worried about taking care of everyone else, what would you want without apology? Some radical truth telling, and whether you want to post in the chat or just even write down for yourself, we'd welcome it in the chat, but it's an edgy question. So right now is the moment I think that Bill is talking about where we show up 1000%, not show up 90% and leave 10% of us over there. This is the moment of how we show up for ourselves that informs the next moment and the next moment after that. So if we weren't worried about how other people would react, what would we want? Because
Yeah.
it's almost like we want from that place of, if there's a filter, right? Can you speak to that?
Stacey, answer that question.
Oh, answer the question myself. But what would I want unapologetically?
Unapologetically.
I would want, let me think about that. What a great question. I would want, I think I'd want a 3-month sabbatical to go to Bali and write.
Yeah, beautiful. I just loved how, like, you could have just blurted something out, but no, you were like, no, I'm gonna go deep internal, and I'm gonna get that answer. And it's like, and I can even feel how edgy it was for you.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
because all already comes up, the stories that I can't have it, and here I am, I'm in a live setting with public, and it's interesting because also that dance, I have an old patterning of being victimized by my busyness and burden of responsibility. I have a family and I am the breadwinner and I have a business that serves many people. And so there is something inside of me where I've already made a commitment to show up in a certain way and be something. And so there's a little bit of the story of like, I have responsibility and I've chosen that. So there's the proactive choice. And then there's the days that I'm tired where I go, I want to escape. And then there's the like artist in me that's just like, screw it, give it all up and go to Bali. But again, it's like, I do choose making the choices in an empowered way with, this is what I'm dedicated to. And I've got a little bookmark. How do I create that for myself?
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm curious for people what you're experiencing so far. Okay, I'm seeing Marianne says that she'd love to sail around the world on her own sailboat. Lauren wants love, appreciation, more money, just being real and travel. Katie wants to, well, she says apologetically make 7 figures coaching, but I think she means unapologetically. So sorry, so not sorry. So not sorry about my 7 figures. Travel the world and live my purpose. And Tiffany, oh, and with the love of my life, great. And Tiffany wants to start asking for help and cooperation from my husband to work towards my dreams unapologetically.
Beautiful.
Woo, these are good. So, oh, and Bethany, let's see this. Wants high-paying, ideal clients that want and are ready to change their life, are looking for the message I have to share, not have to worry about where they will come from. So can we talk about that, Bill, a little bit? Is where is the intersection of authenticity and like marketing? Like I need to get clients, I need them to resonate with my message, and then so is there a distortion in there, or how do you really be yourself, put yourself out there when you also do need to make income? And is that different? Is it actually the same thing?
This is like the $1 million question, right? Yeah. And I think there's like if we look at the totality of who we are and our experience, right? It's a lot. And we can choose to go, okay, here's the 30% of the experience of my own being, of my ideas, of how I show up that I would like to highlight in my marketing, right? So it's not untrue. It's still you. It's still unapologetic. But we don't need to, there is such a thing as too much, right? Like, and I'll give you an example. So for me, 95% of the time, I will share right after the breakthrough that I had about what's going on. And what people can learn from it, but I probably wouldn't show up in the fullness of my mess, right?
Yes.
Some aspect of it, but not in the fullness of my mess, because we are all a mess on some level, right? and I'm okay saying that, but I'm not going to show up in the fullness of my mess, because the reality is most people can't handle it, right? Without judgment, without putting some sort of label on the experience, right? And so I understand that that's where society is at this particular moment in time. So we get to choose which part of us gets to be the front and center of our marketing stage.
I really love that. And also the realness that we all go through our messes. This is not about creating the perfect image to preserve or augment your approval rating. This is not about just public PR. There is an honesty, and that can come with rawness. But Marianne Williamson says, teach from your resurrection, not your crucifixion.
Right, exactly.
I think it's a great quote. So it's you're 1, 2, 3 notches ahead of integrating your lessons. There's still rawness, but you're metabolizing it into beauty. You're not just vomiting.
Yeah. And also there is an energetic difference. And this is something, so we're talking about the end of playing small, right? The end of playing small is the end of playing victim. So we can be in our mess and be powerful and not victim-y. Not, oh my God, something is being done upon me and woe's me. And more like, I am fully aware and I'm fully inside my experience. And I'm using this experience in this moment to transform myself and also transform you. That's powerful. But when we cannot get out of the victim loop of an experience, we better keep that to ourselves.
Woo! Let's all take that one in.
Yeah.
And I see a question, Bill, from Emily, who is asking, can you go further into what you mean by fullness of my mess?
Yeah. So I'll go in a little bit of this victim-y versus non-victim-y thing. So over the last year for myself, what and you know, it's still a little raw and it's still a little emotional for me. I've had issues with energy, and like my energy's been low, and you know, I was like, I have adrenal fatigue or whatever the label is.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last maybe 10 months, I've been a little victim-y about it.
Mm.
Where it's like, something's wrong with me. Wouldn't my life be better if this wasn't there? And over the last 2 months, I've like totally accepted it. It's like, it is what it is. And how can I show up fully in this mess of low energy?
Mm.
And something magical has happened. Like I have so much energy. I've got like, I've been excited to be doing 14-hour days because I'm like in it. And it's like, it was the fullness of this victim-y mess, but I wasn't sharing that. But now I'm sharing it, but from that resurrection piece that you talked about, right? Like, it just feeling amazing right now. But I realized it was like, oh, how can I love and accept the place that I'm at? Because one of the ways that I love to coach is love and accept yourself to change rather than reject and beat yourself up to change, because that doesn't work.
Yeah, well, what I got, because you actually exhaled, you almost reset your nervous system. It looked like just even in that, and the tension that I got from the part of you that was trying to reject, negate, override this tiredness versus finally accepting. And then there was an exhale, and it just almost felt like this effervescent freeing up of energy, because you are no longer needing to hold on to it, which had a bracing quality to it. How much energy do we spend bracing that is actually taking up some of our bandwidth? And that's the very thing that's making us tired in the first place.
This is really it. Like, we spend our life in resistance. And resistance is like an engine running and getting rid of the gas or the energy fuel of the engine, right? And so the more love and acceptance there is for everything, I mean, for everything, for things that you love about yourself, for things that you don't like about yourself, for things that is easy to accept, for things that are hard to accept. Like, how can we be in this absolute, magical, total surrender? Because that is the place from which we never get depleted. Like, I'll give you an example. I was, this past weekend, I was on the East Coast with my parents. And my mom, who is a breast cancer survivor, she got the results of a test, and it didn't look good. And I am freaking the fuck out. They don't know, but I know because I have the internet. My parents don't. And so I asked my wife, can we go outside? And like, I allowed myself the fullness of the grief of this news. And like, immediately there was relief. Like, immediately I can feel like this fear and this tension. Like, the news stayed the same. But my experience and surrender to it changed. And like, tears were rolling down my eyes, but they weren't desperate. They were just beautiful grief tears. The good news is that the internet didn't have all the answers and everything is okay. So there's that. But it was like just an experience of this surrender to it rather than the resistance of it. And I can feel like, had I not done that, I would have been depleted for the next 2 days. But I wasn't. Yeah.
Wow. I just want to digest that, because you just gave so much, and I'm glad your mom is okay. The internet doesn't know everything. Let's remember that when we're in crisis. And the vulnerability it takes to actually, even with your wife, even someone who you probably trust most in the world, but most of us are taught to stuff the grief. We don't have a culture of learning how to grieve, especially with another human being. So I just want to acknowledge, especially for a man, the courage that it takes to give yourself permission to grieve, and especially in a moment, not waiting until it's just insufferable, but as it's happening.
Yeah.
It's big. That's really big. So I see another question that's a little pickup off of being tired, which is from Lauren asking, how do you get through those long days? Because you did say you're working 14-hour days. How do you get through those long days and not get exhausted and burn out?
So one of the things I think Lauren is also talking about coaching, like, how do you not get exhausted after coaching? And this is actually a question that came up a lot in one of our programs, because we have a lot of students and clients who are starting to get big and successful. And they've got a lot of clients, and they're like, well, wow, I'm now getting a little tired. What's going on? Right. And so I just noticed that with our clients is that when we're holding in something unsaid, unprocessed ourselves, that's when we're exhausted. Right. So I just believe in not holding on to anything. So if I'm experiencing something in a session with a client, like if I'm experiencing tension, I'll bring that into the session. I'll just tell them, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I'm really tense. And I know that if I'm really tense, Some's happening. Can we explore that? And sometimes I do know. Sometimes I'm like, man, I'm sick and tired of you complaining. Complaining over and over and over again. And I'm sure you're sick and tired of it. Can we just like do ourselves a favor and do something about it right now, once and for all, right? And it creates relief for all of us because they're experiencing it too. And then at the end of a session, I'm not exhausted. I'm just energized and things are great and we create breakthroughs, right? So if you're tired after coaching, you're not going deep enough, you're not truth-telling enough.
Yeah, and this does seem to be the crisis of the healer, and which can have us shrink and play small in order to save ourselves, to protect ourselves, or what was I going to say? Shrink and play small, or burn ourselves out and sacrifice. That seems to be the crisis of the coach, the healer, the service professional, these giving professions that are mission driven, want to give so much, but this is something that's not talked about very much. Is one of the things that I'm hearing you say, which I'm going to write down for myself, is if you're feeling anything, nervousness or tingling in your nervous system, don't go into a coaching session needing to compartmentalize that. Is actually trust that, oh, something's present here and you can check in about it. And together we actually can create a very real, authentic space where we might free up some of this energy, because it's hard to tell sometimes when it's your own or if you're empathing. We're very sensitive beings as coaches and stuff. And so most of us are really strong empaths. So how do you know when you're empathing or when it's your own? And just transparency brings that to the space, and then we can clear it away and we're already doing the deeper work.
And on a deeper level, there's no separation between you and I. So what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours. So there's no, like, I don't even have a sense of separation of like, this is my stuff and this is your stuff, right? Like there is a unity, like in a coaching session, when unity happens, like transformation is happening for both people at the same time, even if you're facilitating it.
Wow. Well, this has been an amazing, real talk. I really appreciate you coming on. And I imagine that some people would be curious just how to learn more and continue the conversation with you, Bill. So is there some way that they can find you?
Yeah. So thebigshift.com, and we created a little training for HCI folks. And so thebigshift.com/HCI, it's like this culmination of my business knowledge I put together in this really short presentation, and I think you're going to love it. And that's the best way to get into my world. And I would love for you to get into my world.
Thank you so much for that. That's generous. I'd highly recommend all of you go check that out. As you can see, Bill has a lot of range here. We didn't even get into strategy and business and practicality, but what I love, Bill, about your teachings is that they're very easy to understand, easy to implement. You're one of those teachers who knows how to turn theory into practice in simple steps. And it can be very conceptual, like how to build your business, but you break it down and make it very easy. And at the same time, you also hold this extraordinary intuitive capability and capacity. So I love that. And what I want to complete with, given our topic, what is one way that you are no longer playing small, and what is one way you are committed to playing full out in these next months?
Nice. Cool. I can't wait to, is this for me or is this for?
This is for you. Well, certainly you on the audience too, but you did this to me earlier, so I'm getting you back.
I want the comments too. I'll answer it.
I want to hear from everyone on the chat. How are you putting an end right now to playing small? What is something specific that you are saying, I proactively set this down? And what is something that you are embracing to play full out, bringing 100% of your mess, your success, and all of you forward?
Yeah. And so if I'm going to be answering this question, you better be answering this question too. That's how you can play big. All right. So for me, it's, and And I'm in the midst of letting something go that's constricting me, which is how I'm spending time in my business. Like, I realize that I don't like meetings with lots of people. And so I've minimized meetings with lots of people. I'm doing a lot more collaboration and one-on-one kind of things with people. And I plan on continuing this one practice. And like, this practice is amazing for everybody. And I just hope that everybody does this. Is like, every day I examine the day before and I say, what in the previous day brought me alive and what in the previous day has depleted my energy. And I'm committed to increasing the time of the day where my energy is energized and when things are being depleted. And just doing that, whew, love it.
That's a great one. Well, real quick, I'll say for me is where I've been playing small is, and this is probably why I do this work, is the places where I put other things as more important than my well-being. And so the little sacrifices that I make in my body or what I'm eating, those things. So like, new level of no longer sacrificing my well-being and my health optimization, making other things more important than that. And the playing full out, well, I mean, it's actually the same thing. Is it almost seeing it as my most generous act is to fill my cup until it overflows, so that I'm giving from that generous place and not depleting myself in the process. So that would be my playing full out right now.
Well, beautiful. I'm gonna steal it from myself.
We can do that. I feel like we need a secret handshake.
Exactly. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Thank you.
I'll do my little hat trick for you. That'll be our handshake on that. You ready? You guys ready?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I think I'm going to need to practice that.
I might have to do it again. Ready? Let's see. Try to get it straighter this time. That didn't work out so well.
Actually, I like it. I like it.
Everyone, thank you for joining this episode of Real Talk. We're live every Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.